Hi, this is Dave Emery with Maizex Seeds. I'm here today with Chuck Belanger, our agronomist for Western Ontario. In this week's edition of Maizex Moving, Chuck's going to talk about this field we're in today.
Thanks, Dave. We're in a field here in South Kent that was planted on April the 9th, so it gives us a great opportunity to evaluate the corn stand and the planter performance. So if we step over here, we'll have a good look at what we got set up.
So here we're going to look at planting conditions. Obviously we can see here that there's a lot of residue. First thing to look for is, did your units, were they going up and down at the time of planting? A stalk like this with a root mass like this is going to cause your units to bounce if you do not get that out of the way. And then also residue such as this, a corn stalk from a previous year, if your trash whippers are not aggressive enough, this could get pinched in the seed row, and then that could cause some inconsistency with emergence. As we can see here, the trash whippers did a very good job and the uniformity is quite consistent.
So what we did here, we come out here, first of all, we wanted to look at the consistency of the emergence, and we looked at some plants that were pretty consistent when we dug them out. Looking at the coleoptile and the lateral roots on this one here started off very well, very healthy. The kernel still is quite healthy. When we checked it all out, it looked like she was almost exactly 2 inches of depth.
Now Chuck, this plant is pretty yellow.
Yep.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of it, there's two things that are happening here. The first thing was that it's been cold. Like, we haven't had any evenings that have been in the double digits. They've all been single digits, if not below zero. And daytime temperatures weren't much better in a lot of cases. We've had a couple good warm days. In fact, to be honest, it's a little bit greener today than it was 2 days ago. But yesterday we had about 17 degree temperatures here yesterday, and the evening was down to about 8 degrees, so it wasn't too bad.
So the heat is definitely helping.
The heat is definitely helping. It's helping it come through. The other thing that happened here was, I believe it was probably last week, about 7 days ago today, they had sprayed glyphosate and integrity on. And at that time, it didn't show that there was much emerged. But when I come back here a couple days later, the corn that had emerged at that time had a little bit of burn at the tips caused by the integrity. But it's grown right through that, no problem at all. But when they come out here spraying, they didn't see nothing, but they could have been just possibly poking through at that time. The soil temperature right now is sitting at almost 19 degrees Celsius, about 64 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's gone up in the last 20 minutes because I think it was 58 when we looked at it earlier. So we are going to gain some heat. I went on farmzone.com and looked to see how many heat units they actually captured since the date of planting. Since April 9th. So when I put the date of April 9th in to today's date, it showed that it was 257 heat units already here. So corn needs approximately 150 to 180 heat units for it to merge. So everything's kind of falling right in line here. Surprisingly, for an April 9th planting, I'm pretty happy with what we see here so far.
As we get into the later part of May now, obviously when the weather does cooperate, it's going to be, every planter is going to be rolling full blast because we are starting to get a little bit later in the calendar. My biggest fear is that guys are going to start pushing the soils in conditions that are not going to be favorable possibly for planting. So I don't want to stress this too much, but definitely planting conditions are the most important critical part to having maximum yield at the end of the day. If you're in here and the soil is not fit, you're going to regret it once that corn starts to come up. Sometimes even a day can make a big difference in the overall health of the field after planting. So I know it's getting late, but definitely be patient and go on the soil when it's fit. Some of the best crops of corn I've ever seen were planted late May, first week of June. So I don't get too excited about planting early. I'm more interested in guys planting when the soil conditions allow for it, even if that's later in May, first week of June. So thanks for watching. Again, this is Dave Emery and Chuck Belanger, and this is this week's edition of Maizex Moving. Thanks and have a good day.